Get up in their faces. Could you imagine if I had urged all of you to do that? They'd be going nuts. And yet she says that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a danger to America. That's the real danger right there. You're looking at her, Maxine Waters and the rest of her cronies. So here to respond to the Marjorie Taylor Greene story of being banned from Twitter and now Facebook is one of her good friends. He is a fellow congressman, Republican from Florida. Matt Gaetz is with us. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to see you, Grant, but the irony is pretty thick. Watching Al Sharpton and Maxine Waters criticize Marjorie Taylor Greene, they are race-baiting, violence-provoking fools. And what Americans should know is that Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't been banned from Twitter or removed from Facebook because she spread misinformation. If misinformation got you off of digital platforms, then CNN wouldn't be able to post anything after the Russia hoax. Rachel Maddow would be banished to the digital hinterlands as a consequence of what she said about vaccines always stopping the virus in every circumstance. No, this is about challenging the regime. And by the way, what Marjorie Taylor Greene said in a number of circumstances was true. She got a strike for suggesting that obesity is a really challenging comorbidity when evaluating someone's frailty with coronavirus. And that is true. A way we can be more personally resilient is to be healthier. And so this is really about silencing someone who has the courage to stand up against that regime. Now, I am disappointed in some of my Republican colleagues for not being stronger in response to this action. I feel like at the Republican National Committee, we were talking more about Kwanzaa than we were about Marjorie Taylor Greene getting banned from Twitter. And so, you're right that we can't just complain about this. We have to mobilize into action. I think that means seeking out alternative digital platforms like Rumble, Getter, Parler, but it also means legislating so that this cannot happen in the future. I think we need to do more than just regulate big tech or trim around the edges. I think we need to break up big tech, and I would even work with Democrats to do it.
Yeah, well, clearly what they're doing, Twitter, Facebook, leader of the pack, is anti-American. I mean, they really are squashing speech, and speech and dissent are what made this country great. They shouldn't be so afraid of dissent, except the reason they're afraid of it is because they know we're speaking with the truth, and they aren't, and they're being exposed through it all. Let me play a soundbite from you, Congressman. This is from Congresswoman Jayapal talking about the banning of Marjorie Taylor Greene and how this is only just the beginning. Take a listen.
These steps are important, but frankly, a little too little and a little too late. The reality is it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. If we are going to take on the disinformation that's out there, the big lie, and everything else that goes with it, then yes, this is a part of it, but it's got to be much, much more.
Much, much more, Congressman. So I imagine that's you, that's me. Much, much more also would mean outlets like Newsmax. Who knows what else?
Oh, in fact, Democrats in Congress have petitioned to try to get outlets like Newsmax canceled by common carriers. And think for a moment, Grant, about what a low view that takes of our fellow Americans. You see, I know that my neighbors, my constituents, they're smart enough to be able to analyze information, to be able to do their own research, to even at times be confronted with misinformation and think through that. But I guess, according to Congresswoman Jayapal, we just need all of the elites to predetermine what the truth is and then force feed that to the country. I mean, these digital platforms would have banned Galileo under the standards that Pramila Jayapal is advancing. And I think it's really important that the terms of service on Twitter don't become more important in American society than the values that undergird our Constitution. The digital marketplace of ideas is the marketplace of ideas, and we must protect that.
I don't want to start acting like a Democrat, and when Republicans are in power, then we censor or punish Democrats that are in office, or the other way around, because they clearly do it to us. But the reality is I don't know what else to do. Congressman, is there any way we take back the House? I'm sure we do in 2022, in November this year. Can we start, what do you call it, punishing, putting some things down, censoring these congressmen and women on the Democrat side of things that say outrageously un-American things, promoting what I do believe is violence and the squashing of free speech in America?
I do believe we will have to use some of the tools of the left when we retake power within the walls of the Congress. But we also have to get tough against these technology companies. You got a lot of Republicans who talk tough when they're on television and with reporters, but then in the back rooms, they're taking donations. They're meeting with the lobbyists. They're accepting the PAC contributions from big tech. So I would say follow the money. I'm the only Republican in Congress who doesn't take any PAC money from anyone. Folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Greg Steube and Ken Buck have stood up to not take a lot of this big tech money, and I think that's a start. Yeah. But how can we ball up our fist with big tech with one hand while we've got our palm open soliciting donations with the other? It's quite the contradiction.
And this is why I love having you on the show, because this is what makes Americans sick, is that they talk a big game and then go into the back halls of Washington and are making backroom deals. And it's really at the detriment of the American people. Congressman Matt Gaetz, as always, Happy New Year to you, too, as we move forward into 2022.
Happy New Year to Stinchfield's Army. Thanks for having me on, Grant.
Hey, thanks so much, Matt. We'll see you soon.